I'm Brian Lilly. Losing perspective in the fight against terror, that is the topic of tonight's byline. The Globe and Mail, Canada's establishment paper, wants you to know that there's no problem with terrorism and no need for the new anti-terror bill. In their lead and only editorial today, the Globe says Parliament must reject Harper's secret policeman bill. In staking out their position that there's no need for any of these changes, the Globe has gone even further than the Toronto Red Star, which merely called for MPs to be given an oversight role over Canada's security agencies. I think MPs already have that role and those powers. They just need to exercise their muscles. But at least the Star is seeming reasonable compared to the Globe. Now, I'm not saying the anti-terror bill unveiled on Friday doesn't deserve scrutiny. It does, and that is the role of MPs and committees, and yes, even the media. But the Globe editorial is simply dismissive. It opens by saying Prime Minister Stephen Harper never tires of telling Canadians that we are at war with the Islamic State, under the cloud of fear produced by his repeated hyperbole that the scope and nature of the threat. He now wants to turn our domestic spy agency into something that looks disturbingly like a secret police force. Well, let's start with that opening. We are at war with the Islamic State. Our planes are bombing them. They're spying on them. Our soldiers are training the soldiers that are taking the fight back against the ISIS threat, and even sometimes firing at ISIS members themselves and, yes, killing them. Now, the Globe editorialists might need the smelling salts after realizing that last part. So, yes, we are at war with the Islamic State. And they have even called on their supporters to attack Canada.
وإننا خصوم بين يدي الله لكل مسلم يستطيع أن يريق قطرة دم صليبية واحدة ولا يفعل، سواء بعبوة أو طلقة أو سكين أو سيارة أو حجر أو حتى بركلة أو لكمة. وقد رأيتم ما فعل مسلم واحد بكندا وبرلمان شركها.
The idea that Canada could be attacked by ISIS supporters, but the Globe just tuts that. This week, Mr. Harper released a video in which he recklessly conflates the two recent lone wolf incidents in Canada with the Islamic State's call for attacks on non-believing countries. They then go on to say that the attacks that killed Warrant Officer Patrice Vincent in St. Jean and Corporal Nathan Cirillo in Ottawa, plus the shooting up of Parliament, well, they were awful, but you can't connect them to ISIS. The Globe writes, if the Prime Minister has evidence that either attack was directly linked to ISIS, he should provide it instead of deceptively implying it in a video saturated with images of fighter jets, warships, and repelling soldiers. To that, I would say, if the Globe has evidence that there was absolutely no radicalization or nudging, no inspiration from ISIS, then they should provide it rather than print blather devoid of facts, but with just enough self-righteousness to make Toronto's elites feel good about themselves. We know enough about Ahmed Rouleau and Michael Zihaf Bibo to know that they were inspired by radical Islam. Exactly which branch? I can't say, but neither can the Globe. Canada's self-proclaimed paper of record apparently forgot to check their own archives in their rush to slam these proposed measures. They write, will it be illegal to show support for Hamas, a group the Harper government has designated a terrorist organization? Well, first off, Hamas is a terrorist organization. Their repeated call for death to the Jews and a single state solution with no Israel should prove that. They attack civilians without blinking. They launch rockets into Israel, not aimed at military targets, but homes, schools, hospitals. They hide their own weapons and launch their own attacks from schools, hospitals, and populated areas. So Hamas isn't a group that the Harper government designated a terrorist organization. They are a terrorist organization. Additionally, if the Globe had checked the record, it wasn't the Harper government that put them on the list of banned terrorist groups. That was the Liberals. But why let the facts get in the way of a good rant? Do I have concerns about the impact that the measures in this bill will have on things like free speech? Yes, I do. But here's the thing. We've had move after move to silence free speech, and the Globe has mainly been silent. They didn't wage a campaign to free Mark Steyn or Ezra Levant as they were prosecuted for the things they wrote by human rights commissions. And just about 2 years ago, when the Supreme Court said in the Whatcott ruling that truth was no defense, as far as I can tell, editorial anyway, the Globe was silent. I searched Infomart. I simply found articles reporting the Whatcott decision, not questioning Justice Marshall Rothstein, who wrote that he supported the marketplace of ideas, but that I do not think it is inconsistent with these views to find that not all truthful statements can be free from restriction. Truthful statements can be interlaced with harmful ones or otherwise presented in a manner that would meet the definition of hate speech. So mix a truthful idea with one that can hurt feelings, and you've got hate speech in Canada. Where is the Globe concern on that bizarre ruling from the Supreme Court? There wasn't one. Why? Because Bill Whatcott was speaking out against homosexuality. Now, if he was speaking out in favor of Hamas or ISIS, then the Globe would be on board. These new measures on promoting terrorism and the ability to take down videos and online statements that promote terrorism, well, those new powers come with judicial oversight, which is more than I can say for the kangaroo courts of hurt feelings. The Globe calls all of these measures a plan to bring about a secret police in Canada. Is that really where we're headed? I'm no fan of the police state. I speak out on police overreach, probably more than the Globe does. I speak out on free speech more than the Globe and most other media outlets, but I'm willing to examine these measures, give them the benefit of the doubt for now, rather than have the knee-jerk reaction that this is all an attempt to strip our freedoms. I agree with Prime Minister Harper on this one.
We do not buy the argument that every time you protect Canadians, you somehow take away their liberties. It is a jihadi terrorist who endanger our security who would take away our freedoms.
Now, if the Globe and other media outlets were really worried about our freedom, then they would have spoken out not only against the prosecution of Stein, Levant, Whatcott, Lemire, and more. Well, they would have questioned bans on light bulbs, on doorknobs. But they didn't. They don't. Instead, they publish columns calling for people to be banned from smoking in their own homes. The Globe isn't sticking up for freedom or civil liberties. They're really just soft on terrorism. And that's the byline.
There is no liberty without security. One goes hand in hand. And what we are willing to accomplish, the first role of a government is to keep Canadians safe.
Tonight's top story, standing up for the fight against terror. Well, Public Safety Minister Stephen Blaney standing by his government's new legislation. The Conservative plan has faced criticism for expanding powers of CSIS and, well, police agencies. Details of the new bill released Friday. Critics say there's not enough checks on the new powers. Sun News contributor Ray Hurd joins us now from Toronto. Ray, this is a lot of Johnny-come-latelys on the issue of free speech, as far as I can tell.
Well, the Globe has been dumbed down quite a lot later, while its rival, the Star, and they're both edited by Fleet Street Brits, by the way. The Star has a somewhat more balanced and fair approach lately than the Globe. But I must tell you that of all the things that I've read since Harper unveiled his necessary legislation, there's a woman on the Star, Heather Malik. I call her Heather Malice. She compared Stephen Harper this weekend with George Zimmerman, who is alleged to have killed a young black, Richard Nixon, and other people. And Zimmerman and Nixon have nothing to do with Canada or the debate. So the media, in my judgment, led by the Globe and Mail, which has become a propaganda agency for Justin Trudeau. Basically, the Globe are trying to pressure Justin Trudeau into opposing that bill. Now, there are members of Justin Trudeau's caucus, notably Judy Scrow, who thinks ISIS won't touch us if we don't touch them, which is absolute nonsense.
You know, Ray, on that point, you know there's two terror trials starting today.
Yes.
The Victoria plot that was going to put off bombs at the BC legislature, and the Via Rail plot in Toronto. Those both start today. Those were long before we took the fight to ISIS.
Yes, and if we had the law that Harper wants to pass now, the Via Rail plot, which is very serious, it could have blown up a large section of downtown Toronto. The Via Rail plot probably would have been nipped in the bud even earlier if our security forces had the powers Harper wants to give them now.
You said you think the Globe is leading the media on this. I want to play a quick montage of different media outlets, TV outlets, talking about their concerns about civil liberties. And again, were any of these guys concerned about the free speech cases or other infringements? Roll clip.
Sweeping new measures to fight terror.
Sweeping legislation.
Sweeping new anti-terrorism legislation.
Sweeping new powers.
Sweeping new powers.
Thick water legislation.
At a cost that's too high.
And the concerns that go with it.
Will come at a cost.
Canadians' civil liberties.
Breach civil liberties. Sacrificing personal liberty.
infringe basic liberties.
That is taking a liberty away. That is what you are doing.
It's almost George W. Bush style stuff.
That may commit act of terrorism.
How do you define may, Tatterwellian?
Speak more to the coming election than security.
I don't know that you can really make a political living by exploiting fear.
The centerpiece of a very jingoistic, militaristic election campaign. That's pretty concerning.
Right,
Well,
that's quite the parade of talking heads.
Keep that, because those clips, and some of my friends and your friends, one of whom
None of
especially
mine.
should know better, Craig Oliver. But to be fair about this, those clips represent what the Toronto and Ottawa media elite think as they try to dictate what Canadians should do. If you go out into the streets, even in Quebec, Chantal Hébert in the Star has this today. In Quebec, there is enormous support for the anti-terrorism bill, and we always have said Quebecers are pacifists. The mayor of Montreal, Denis Coderre, has taken a tough stand against terrorism. Ordinary Canadians, who actually aren't ordinary but are exceptional human beings, ordinary Canadians support measures to protect them. You have to protect democracy when you're dealing with butchers who don't obey any rules except to behead innocent humanitarian Japanese.
There's judicial oversight on this. There's parliamentary oversight. Again, that's more than these kangaroo courts of hurt feelings. There's another criticism of this, though, and today it's coming from, well, the man that took Ezra Levant to the Human Rights Commission, Syed Soardi, an imam out of Calgary. I want to play you a clip of him. He's appearing before a Senate committee today, and he says this bill is all about targeting Muslims.
It is going to target Muslims, it's going to do racial profiling, it's going to create a discrimination, it's going to put Muslims in a very bad position because they will feel that this law is against us. And this is what I'm going to talk today. The isolation of Muslim community from mainstream Canadian society is one of the reasons of extremist recruitment thing.
Okay, two things, Ray. One, I haven't figured out what race Muslims are because they come from all races and backgrounds. Two, did the 30 seconds left, did the radicalization and the attack start before we had terror bills, chicken and egg? Well, I think the attack started before the anti-terror legislation.
No one has ever said all Muslims are terrorists. Too many Muslims are terrorists based on the evidence, and it's up to the Imam and other people like him to follow the lead of Tariq Fatah, who's on Sun News, and stand up to the terrorists and to show the world that Muslims are not terrorists, although some terrorists, too many are Muslims.
That's where the attacks are coming from, and that's, you know, if there's profiling, there might be a reason. Ray, good talking to you.
Okay, thank you.